And thank you all for being here and to Black Lawrence Press for hosting us. I'm really excited to be hanging out with you all on a Tuesday night. So like Diane said, I'm just going to start from the beginning of, this is my debut novel, Down Here We Come Up, and I'm going to start with the prologue and then read you most of chapter 1. Jackie Jessup's apology to her daughter Kate refused to get lost in the stagnant air of her death. It rustled the tobacco leaves in the field beside her bungalow. It snaked through silver turkey houses and ripe hog lagoons before traveling across the acreage, being clear-cut for subdivisions east of Fayetteville. From there, it moved way down south under concrete overpasses caught by sinking bayous on one side and rising seas on the other. The apology skimmed the rubble of neighborhoods left ruined and rotting after last year's Category 5, when the levees broke and everything low was left to drown. Jackie's apology moved west, across a country split into ill-fitting parts, some of the divisions made by gray lines on a map, some by beliefs handed down. Other breaks were created by different angles on the same story, because as Jackie had said many times, a person cannot stand in two places at once. Use that to your advantage. Near Fort Worth, in the hot, dry middle, Jackie's apology lagged, barely moved at all, although the words were still there. I should not have kept you from my daughter, but you kept me from mine. It was as close to an apology as a stubborn con artist like Jackie could offer. In the end, her daughter Kate heard none of it. She did not hear that which had traveled so far, so fast, too late. At the moment of her mother's death, Kate was driving over the bridge of the Americas into Juárez. She was crossing a border so wide, it could only be partially sewn shut with razor wire. Surveillance cameras and border police. It was a divide not unlike the one between people who love each other in complicated ways, but cannot hear what needs to be said. Chapter 1. Kate learned from her mother, Jackie, all the different ways to calculate a value. There was a thing's market value, the perceived value, the true the value, the if the buyer was drunk value. There was the value of everything that fell between the cracks of the car seats of men staying over. Kate and her twin brother Luke had the job of reaching down into the tight spaces for escaped cash or jewelry. They could at least swipe a few CDs to sell, but not so many that the man, whoever he was this time, would notice he had been picked through. Early on, Jackie insisted her children pocket food from the free lunch program at school for dinner. 2 for 1, she called it. She switched the price tags on items in the grocery store until the food line introduced barcode scanners. She got away with it at the Piggly Wiggly for nearly another year, but eventually even the older grocery stores caught up. Jackie saw everything. Like the time she noticed from the back pew on a Sunday morning in March, when it was just starting to get good and hot, the preacher's wife, sweating through the back of her shirt, unfortunately white, showing a series of bruises across her shoulder blades. That warranted Jackie's eyes narrowing slightly, the church bulletin flipped over, and a note made in her formal, old-fashioned cursive. That was their short-lived period as Free Will Baptist, before they had been Seventh-day, then just run-of-the-mill Southern Baptist. Jackie eventually gave it up altogether because time was money, and unless she could pull something back from the little she put into the offering plate, she might as well focus her resources elsewhere. The kind of value Jackie hunted for went far beyond monetary. A bird in the hand was worth 2 in the bush. A pack of smokes was more valuable on the bedside table than all the way in the living room. An envelope mailed to yourself and left unopened gave proof of the date you knew something and wrote it in a letter. The imprint of the postmark stood witness. A box of old photographs bought at a yard sale, copies of other people's rental agreements, stolen from a dumpster behind the beach realty office, the yellow pages. Any scrap of information might prove to be worth something. Then again, it might not, but one could never know. Kate was no good in school, but she was a fast learner. She watched her mother, Jackie, add things up, subtract out cost, look for opportunities that would yield more, whether it was a carton of cool 100s or a white envelope stuffed with cash. Jackie could con people into anything because she saw ahead of everyone else by several moves. In a different set of circumstances, Jackie might have been a great chess player, someone who could beat the fast strategies of the men playing outside the Obanpan in Harvard Square, where Kate later followed her twin brother Luke when he received enough merit and need-based scholarship plus loan money that it didn't matter he had no actual money. Luke had their mother's sense of scope, a patience for making one move that led to another, then another, eventually landing where he wanted. "I'm getting out of here," he whispered to Kate in the darkness of the bedroom they shared. When? How? Soon. College. He was not even 10 years old. Kate lacked her brother's patience. If Luke and Jackie were glaciers capable of steady long-term calculation and grinding pressure, Kate was a volcano. She learned to spread sparks that eventually burned so fierce they devoured all the oxygen, leaving only black ash. Not every fire Kate set was intentional, but most were useful, because another thing Jackie had taught her children was how to look for buried shine when everyone else saw rubble. The morning Jackie called to drag up what Kate had put down, Kate was checking the roof vents at work at the university greenhouse. 87 degrees, 56% humidity, 8:21 a.m. Kate recorded it all on the chart by the control panel. After a bad week avoiding her boyfriend Charlie, she was glad she was the first on the shift this Friday, alone with just the sound of the ventilation fans. Everyone else who worked at the greenhouse had a master's or PhD in botany. Kate only had a GED, but she knew what she was doing. She had worked in greenhouses since she was 14. She could effectively deadhead, pot, prune, graft, irrigate, and transplant, rarely consulting the databases other staff members used to see if something was full sun or partial, or how far one thing needed to be planted from another. Except for the other employees, Kate loved her work. She loved the invisible business of growing. She loved how at first there was nothing but the blackness of the soil, some constellations of white fertilizer, but nothing visible, until the heat and light on the surface created enough pressure for something to push through. Kate wound her dark brown hair on top of her head, then twisted in a pencil to secure it. The thick bangs she was trying to grow out fell across her forehead. She pushed them to the side and lifted a limp habanera plant out of its plastic pot with her thumb. Root rot. All the antifungal soil in the world wouldn't help if the others who thought they were too good for that part of the job kept replanting seedlings too deep. Kate was finishing recording the blossom yields for the habaneras when her phone vibrated in the front pocket of her khaki uniform shorts. She flipped it open to see a number with an unfamiliar 210 area code. She was about to clap it closed, then realized it might be her brother Luke from someone else's device. "I thought you were already in Nantucket," Kate said, holding the phone between her shoulder and cheek. Silence on the other end. "Hello? I reckon you were expecting someone else." Kate could not reconcile her mother's voice with the neat rows of plants or the lines on her graph paper. Her skin already damp from the greenhouse's humid heat, she felt a drip run between her shoulder blades. "I know you're there, Katie. I can hear you breathing." Kate drew a short breath. "What do you want, Mama?" "So that's the way you say hello after all these years," Kate said. "It's only been a few months, and you're the one who said you weren't going to call me again." "I don't recall saying that." Kate looked over her shoulder towards the window of the office. Staff were not allowed to use phones in the houses. Kate sank down on the concrete floor behind the plant table. She crossed her legs, her knees resting on her Timberland work boots. Mama, I'm at work. What do you want? Listen to you, Jackie said. You might have forgot, but down here we show respect for our elders. Anyway, what kind of work? I thought you were a kept woman of some Harvard professor. Kate should have known better than to tell Jackie about Charlie. That last call, Jackie wanted Kate to invest in a new cookout franchise she claimed to be opening in Wilmington. Jackie said, "Look, I need something." "I figured," Kate said. "You say that like I've never done anything for you." Jackie made a whistling sound as she inhaled again. Kate could smell the cool 100. "Katie, I need you to come back home for a while." Kate heard the sound of someone punching the code into the keypad on the greenhouse door and pulled back smaller against the plant table. "Mama, that is not going to happen." Jackie said, "I have something you want." Here it comes, Kate thought. Never something for nothing. She had to give her mother credit for that. Every deal had two sides. Jackie said, "I need you to get someone's children." Whoever had come into the far end of the greenhouse was writing with a squeaky marker on the whiteboard used to track workflow. Kate was careful to keep her voice down. "Whose children?" "It doesn't matter. What children do you even know?" "That is what I need to talk to you about in person." Through the legs of the table, Kate saw her boss Apprendi's blue Vans moving down the aisle toward her, his tapered jeans tight above his ankles. Kate pulled herself up on the heels of her boots, but stayed crouched down. "I have to go. Don't you hang up on me, Katie." Kate clapped her phone shut. Let's skip forward just a little bit. Kate opened a metal drawer in House 3. She turned off the phone. She gathered the soil test packages, tearing open the first test with her teeth. She scooped tiny spoonfuls into the plastic test tubes. Although the April morning was still cool and flat gray outside, the houses were warming up. Kate used the edge of her t-shirt to wipe the sweat away from her eyes. Kate knew heat. She knew it up and down, like the motion of a paper fan in a closed-window church. Blot a cloth against your sweaty forehead heat, waving up from the asphalt like a mirage heat, wet heat. That was the kind she grew up with outside of Wilmington in the creaking, rotting bungalow with no air conditioning. Kate and Luke would steal the box fan from the living room, point it directly where they lay, stuck to the sheets in the double bed. They pressed frozen wet washcloths like hard fossils into their armpits to bring their temperature down. Crackling heat. "You've got a way of jumping out of the skillet and into the fire, don't you?" their neighbor Ruby Newkirk said when Kate was 17 and pregnant and about to run away from home the first time. Kate knew heat well enough to know Jackie's call was a lit match dropped in kerosene. I'm going to skip forward just a little bit to the end of chapter 1, as she's kind of realizing all these memories are flooding back. Usually when a memory rose up, Kate had the ability to remove it with fast, accurate scalpel incisions that could cut the memory right out before it could take her over. Cut. It was only 48 hours of her life. Cut. It was something that she had already decided and couldn't take back, like emptying a clip of ammunition that can't be reloaded. Cut. It was something that was better for everyone. Cut. That puzzle piece clicking feeling when she smelled her baby's skin. Cut. Running her bottom lip across the impossible petal softness of her daughter's head. Cut. Surgical precision. That had worked for 8 years. Cut it out before the loss could flow through her. Follow Luke to Boston. Cut. When Charlie asked her out 5 years ago and she knew already they were wrong together, she still said yes. Cut. Every time she saw a 4-year-old, then a 5-year-old, then this year 8-year-olds. Kate searched them for the features that might have formed from that sweet newborn face she had briefly held against her own. Cut. Somewhere that girl cut. Kate had cut and cut and cut. Thank you so much for listening.